Welcome to the video on commuter and transfer students in CEPD 6178. In this video, we're going to be talking about the challenges of true commuter students. We're also going to review the theory as it relates to commuter students, and then we're going to discuss different ways that we can engage commuter students on college campuses. So I use the term true commuter students because there's a difference between a residential commuter and a true commuter. A residential commuter is one that lives within the surrounding area, typically within walking distance on a campus, and they're going to experience a college or university in a very similar way as a traditional college student living on campus will, because they're still within the proximity of on-campus living. So when we're talking about commuters, we're going to be talking about true commuters, and those are students that are commuting a distance to come to campus. They park on campus, they go to class, and then they leave. That is what I'm referring to as a true commuter. And a lot of the things that we're going to be talking about are going to be around true commuters. Then there's also going to be a distinct difference between a first-year commuter who could have spent living at home as opposed to living on campus their first year of school. Whereas a fourth-year commuter may have an apartment off campus, and they're still considered a true commuter because they're not living in the proximity of campus. But a fourth-year student and a first-year student is going to have a very different experience when commuting because of their campus experience and already feeling connected to the institution. So our focus is going to have to be around the first-year commuter student. Because it can be assumed if they're a fourth-year commuter student, they're going to have a very different campus experience, as I've talked about. So what are the different types of inputs a first-year commuter student can bring to campus? Well, for these types of students, they may be non-traditional. They could be adult students, they may be married, they could have children, they could be returning back to college after a number of years. It could be a number of different things, but they are more likely to be a non-traditional student in some instance. Now, you can have first-year students that are living at home that are commuting to campus, and that may be due to low income or college restrictions or having a full-time job and needing to take care of their family. So whatever it is, there is some sort of external factor that is impacting their ability to live on campus. And then those factors are going to have a role to play in their campus experience. They could also be a transfer student where, say they went to Auburn for 1 year and decided that that wasn't a best fit for them and they wanted to be closer to home because they had to take care of their family or they had to do other things or they didn't have the money to go out of state, so they transferred to the University of West Georgia. So here now they have the commuter status as well as being a transfer student and having to reacclimate to a whole new campus culture and campus climate. So all three of these factors or inputs are going to affect the campus environment in one way, shape, or form. Now, they could be a returning student. So they could have started at the University of West Georgia, left for a number of years, and then came back. For whatever reason, it could be a professional reason, it could be family reason, or whatever it was that took them out of college now is no longer in their life. So commuter students can have a variety of different inputs, or they can simply just want to commute and not want to work or live on campus. So it's important that we really take into consideration the overall purpose of a commuter student, and that is coming to campus for academics and leaving. So commuter students have a lot of challenges, but not necessarily what we could be considered barriers or things that would really impact a student significantly, because they could have a very easy experience, could be very happy driving to campus, going to class, and then leaving. So what happens with commuter students is we get into a lot of assumptions by campus administrators. And the first real big assumption is that a commuter student equals a residential student. And that is far from the case. Commuter students do not equal residential students. Their schedule is going to be different. The times that they can take classes is going to be different. They may be working full-time. Programs may not fit for all, so if all programs are at 10 o'clock at night for residential students, commuter students can't go to these programs. So there's a whole lot of things that need to be considered when we're developing different types of institutional policies. There's also an assumption that commuter students aren't invested, and that's not the case at all. Commuter students can easily be invested in their academics. They may want to be invested in the social aspect of college, but chances are if they're commuting and they're low income or they have a family or they're married, their priorities are going to be very different than a traditional residential student. And that's just something we need to consider for um, thinking about institutional policies and developing classes and programs and office hours. If offices are only open from 8 to 5 and a student's only on campus from 12 to 2 because they have to get to work, then that may create some difficulties. So what types of online services are available for commuter students and transfer students and the like? Now, when we think about Aston's IEO model, one thing that we think about in terms of commuter students is the environment. And we think, how can a commuter student have a good campus environment? Well, we need to think about this in two ways. So for them, the environment could just be academic as opposed to social. So for a commuter student coming onto campus, their inputs such as being low income, having family background, having to take care of a family full-time job, may impact their environment based on their academics. They go for academics, that's what they want to do, so then the output there is either graduation, good academics, purely cognitive development. So when thinking about commuter students, we need to think about their environment and what ways can we help commuter students get the most out of their college experience by providing them with the types of engagement and resources they need to succeed. And we know that that could very well be around academics because they may not necessarily need the social piece. And if we think about this in terms of Tinto, the one area that is required to be connected and to succeed for Tinto is the academic system. The social system's not required, but we know from Aston's student involvement theory, the more they put into their campus experience, the more they're going to get out. But that's also true for academics. So as long as we're providing commuter students ways to engage with their academic system, they can very well be successful. But with commuter students, they're going to have a lot more external forces. What happens if their car breaks down and they can't afford a new car? They can't get to campus. That's going to impact their persistence and their graduation. What if they're low income as well and they need to take on more hours of work? That's going to impact their classes. So there's a lot more factors that play into for commuter students, particularly when we think about Tinto's model. Now, in what ways can we engage these students if they're only on campus for a short period of time? Well, we need to think about theory. And one theory we can think about is Schlossberg's transition theory. What are they doing for themselves to support themselves? What types of support services are there? So using Schlossberg's transition theory can help develop policies and procedures that are able to engage and connect students and provide a smoother transition for them. They're able to adjust better to being a commuter student on campus. The other piece is Aston's student involvement theory, and one of the 5 postulates is policies. How well do policies engage students? And if all of the policies are focused around residential students, then you're going to isolate commuter students. And it's important to consider this because if you have 12,000 students on campus, 3,000 students live on campus, then that leaves 9,000 students whose you need to consider the policies and how they affect those students. The other piece is just having lounges for commuter students to go to get away. If they don't want to go to the library or they just want to take a minute and just go eat lunch and they don't want to be in the cafeteria, just having places for commuter students to go and meet other commuter students. One of the biggest themes throughout this entire course is helping students find those with whom they can relate and having places for students to engage or to participate can be critical. And the other piece of that is developing student organizations that are focused around commuter students. Now, if a commuter student's low income and they're working all the time, this may not be practical, and that's okay. But providing the options for some students is still very important. And we know that a better campus experience is a balanced one. So if we can help them engage academically as well as socially and help them put more of their energy into it, then they will get more out of their campus experience.